like I needed to change my mindset, because when I first when I was in grad school and, I was first introduced to social work, I didn't think it was possible for me to ever get a job where I could make a good living and pay off my extreme amounts of student loan debt. I talk about my loan debt on my channel a lot, like I started off with 70K in debt, and now I'm down to about 40,000. And that's because I do have a job that is higher paid than most traditional social work jobs. And I think in order for me to even believe that I could get in a position where I am making the money that I make now, and to believe that I was contributing enough value to deserve to be in that position, it took me to change the belief about myself and my value as a social worker, because I think often people devalue social workers and they don't totally appreciate what we provide to society. And so I had to like really remind myself, no, I am a social worker and I am doing great work.
Hi guys, welcome to Rich Social Worker. I'm Eva Ford, social worker, mindset mentor, and coach. And on the channel today, I'm so excited because this is actually part 2 of a collaboration that I'm doing with Gabby Taylor of Mind Your Society. Hi, Gabby.
Hello. I'm glad
Welcome
to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for welcome to the channel. We just had a really great conversation on Gabby's channel. So if you haven't seen that yet, go check it out. But we were talking about the intersection between social work and business. And so we're continuing the conversation over here. But first, Gabby, I would love for you to introduce yourself to my audience and let them know all about you and Mind Your Society.
Yeah, for sure. So as Eva mentioned, I have a YouTube channel as well, and that's called Mind Your Society. And I am a macro social worker, and I am currently working in the corporate social responsibility space. So what that basically means is that I work for a big company, and I help them with their philanthropy efforts, as well as connecting their employee base to different volunteer initiatives. And I help to get the employees and team members interested in giving back, whether that's through donations, volunteering at local nonprofits. So I am really the one who kind of connects the company to the community and help with those kind of initiatives. And also, as my own side thing that I do, I have the Mind Your Society platform, and I share information with social workers and other change makers around how they can clarify their goals around their careers, how they can find their niche, and really get from where they are today to their dream career path. So that's kind of who I am, and what I do is really kind of a pure example about the intersection between social work and business.
You are like you're like the poster child that I always hoped to find in social work, because like you really do embody what I try to tell social workers to aspire to be. And that is, sure, have your job, but there's so much that your qualifications as a social worker allow you to do. And a lot of times I think we focus on the micro clinical social work of being a social worker, and there's so many opportunities for social workers like you're doing in your corporate social work position. Can you share, were there any specific skills that you needed to learn or develop, or how were you able to leverage your skills that you had as a social worker to get the job that you have? I think that's the question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I always had like that natural go-getter or hustler, mentality, if you want to say. I grew up in a lower class family, and my family had to make ends meet. And one way they would do that is by buying items from maybe like an antique shop or from a a trade shop, and reselling those items at a higher value to generate revenue. So I've always been around that environment, and I've pretty much grown up in it. So, I kind of learned that, entrepreneurship spirit from a young age. But I think my grad school experience, getting my MSW, specifically focusing on macro social work, really helped to solidify the skills that I learned. During my MSW experience, I was able to take courses in leadership and social entrepreneurship. And that was really great. It taught me how to make a business plan. It taught me how to market and define my niche and, sell products that can lead to societal benefits. And it really just helped to inspire me to look at generating revenue for social causes in a different way. One thing that nonprofit workers and social workers can do more of is thinking about other outside ways to market products and services that can generate revenue for social causes that they believe in as well. So that's what social entrepreneurship is really about. So yeah, to answer your question, I think this was something I was naturally interested in. And I am someone who just cannot stay inside of a box, Eva. Like I always just want to look for innovative ways to solve problems. And I think business is that way of doing that for me, as well as the communities that I'm from. Like, I'm all about small businesses and helping people who come from neighborhoods such as where I come from with having their own revenue streams and becoming entrepreneurs, because it really can help you to go from point A to point B in your life and, improve your life. So yeah, I guess that's a long way to answer your question, but
not real. No, it's perfect, because I think my next question, and you kind of alluded to it, would be, for social workers who maybe are working in nonprofit or who want to start their own, funding their own thing. Is there anything that they need to know? Any advice that you could give them? How do you go about getting corporate funding? Because it can really be, it can be competitive, and when you're doing good, I think this is why a lot of social workers shy away from applying for so many grants, because you don't want to feel like you're trading your soul for doing good. But there is a real cost factor to it, right? That social workers have to consider, because they've got to be attractive to donors to get funding for their thing. So do you have any insight into that? Any suggestions?
Yeah, definitely. So I have a background in both nonprofits. So I've, worked in traditional nonprofits. So I know what it's like to apply for grant funding from that side. And I also have experience as someone who works for a philanthropy and makes decisions around what nonprofits we fund, what community projects we want to support. And you mentioned it, it is very limited. Sometimes nonprofits can have the perfect grant application and submit that in, but if there's big competition, you may still not be able to get that funding. So that's why I really do encourage social workers and other nonprofit workers to think about other creative ways to generate revenue that may be a bit more sustainable in the long run. But in order to make yourself more competitive when you are applying for funding, whether it be government funding or corporate philanthropy funding, I think it's important for you to understand that businesses speak in data and numbers, right? So I feel like often social workers may get stuck, not just social workers, but people in the helping profession in general. You may get really, stuck in the emotional way of thinking like, oh yeah, like my services
Yeah.
made my clients feel happy, or my clients said that the services they got, was great. Of course, we want our clients to be satisfied with whatever services or programs that we're creating, but we also, funders also want to see the numbers and see exactly how you were able to change lives, in a quantitative way. So,
That's
through
why we take
surveys.
statistics.
Exactly. That's why statistics, sometimes it can be a pain when you're in your social work program, but you really do have to know how to, create graphs and to provide surveys and, like do that more quantitative related research.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really that the advice that I would give.
Really good stuff. Okay, so I don't know about you, but there were some things that I needed to unlearn and then,
Mhm.
relearn in order to kind of move into the entrepreneurial space or the rich social work space, as I like to call it, because it's not just about being an entrepreneur, but it is, I believe, a way of life, a way of thinking. Um, and entrepreneurship can be a component of it. Often it is, I find. But were there any beliefs that you needed to change or develop in order to step into the space where you are now? And I mean with everything, right? In terms of even maybe entrepreneurship for you or the corporate aspect of social work. I don't know.
I would say definitely. I think just being a part of the helping profession in general, you always kind of hear this voice in the back of your head that tells you, you know, this is an altruistic act. You don't do
Mhm.
good for money. So that's something that I think myself and other social workers constantly have to um, fight and kind of subvert. And where I am today, I'm working in a job that is well paid. I have my own, small business ventures on the side. And I think getting to that position, like I needed to change my mindset because when I first when I was in grad school and I was first introduced to social work, I didn't think it was possible for me to ever get a job where I could make a good living and pay off my extreme amounts of student loan debt. I talk about my loan debt on my channel a lot, like I started off with 70K in debt and now I'm down to about 40,000. And that's because I do have a job that is higher paid than most traditional social work jobs. And I think in order for me to even believe that I could get in a position where I am making the money that I make now, and to believe that I was contributing enough value to deserve to be in that position, it took
Mhm.
me to change the belief about myself and my value as a social worker, because I think often people devalue social workers and they don't totally appreciate what we provide to society. And
Mhm.
so I had to like really remind myself, no, I am a social worker and I am doing great work. We're at the front line of a lot of huge social issues that are happening. And I think because we don't have unions and that kind of thing, sometimes our work can be overlooked and underappreciated. So I had to change my mindset about that.
Can I just interrupt you for a second because you said something that just struck a chord with me. You said
Yeah.
you think that sometimes people undervalue social workers, but do you also think, I think, that social
Mhm.
workers primarily undervalue themselves and we teach people to undervalue us?
I think it's both. So I think it's kind of like a
Yeah,
self-fulfilling prophecy and it's like a
yeah,
cycle. What came
yeah.
first, the chicken or the egg? We
Right.
don't totally
Yeah.
know. But
Yeah,
I
we're
think because we are, I don't know what came first, but because we are devalued, we devalue ourselves. And because we don't value ourselves, other people don't value us. So I think it's kind of one of those situations.
difficult.
But I think I definitely had to change my mindset to get to where I am today. And now I feel like I'm in a position where I can confidently say that, yes, social workers should demand higher pay. And, on my videos, I talk a lot about how social workers can make a better living through doing more non-traditional jobs, such as, jobs more associated with macro social work. Those tend to be higher paid, and also by having some side hustles as well. So these are things that I am more confident to talk, like I feel more confident to talk about them because I had to shift my own way of looking at money and understanding that money is not evil. And we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's not money that's evil. It's individuals who may have money that could be evil, right? So just because you get money, it doesn't mean that you're automatically going to be evil. And us as social workers, I think we are naturally giving people. And to be honest, I don't totally agree with this concept. And I think a lot of social workers would feel the same way. Often in this society and in countries, the bottom line is you need money to have access to some of the basic of needs. So to have access to good health care, to have access to a good quality of education for your children, to be able to live in a neighborhood where you feel safe enough to go jogging without the fear of getting mugged, like all of these things, access to healthy foods, areas where you're not living in where you're not dealing with environmental pollution. Unfortunately, like you need money in order to have access to these things in our current society.
I think a lot of social workers actually do have these types of conversations. They say, no, we deserve to be paid. Look at what we do. But I think there is a subconscious message that most of us don't realize, which is, yeah, maybe I deserve it, but I'll never get it. It's not possible.
Yes, exactly.
And when I talk about mindset on my channel, that's really what I'm trying to help social workers change. Trying to help social workers change that 95% habitual negative voice in your head that's on autopilot, that's directing all of your actions and all of your behaviors. So I co-sign on everything you say. There's two things. I want you to tell my audience a little bit about the course that's coming up that you are going to be doing.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I am a career and personal development coach. So I want to help change makers to figure out what their passions are and how they can use their skill set and their passions to get a job where they will be fulfilled and the job of their dreams. I know what type of, resume is going to help you to get in the door the easiest, what your cover letter should look like, the proper techniques to successfully get past an interview, how do you optimize your LinkedIn? All of these things is what I want to touch on in the different coaching services that I offer. And I also will be having a course that's coming down the pipeline soon that will touch on all of this as well. And I make videos about it too. So even if you're not able to be a part of one of my coaching programs right now, definitely check out my videos. I think it's just, it's great. And it's something I'm very passionate about. So
Yay, I'm excited. And thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah. I may take that myself. And finally, the thing that I ask all of my guests is, what does being a rich social worker mean to you?
Ooh, that is such a good question. So when I think about a rich social worker and being a rich social worker, I think about it uh, in a holistic way. So am I in a position where I am able to freely contribute to society using my gifts and my passions? Am I in a position in my life to where I feel free to do and have access to the things that I love? So to kind of summarize it, I think being a rich social worker is being in a position where you can freely act on your dreams and, have the impact that you hope to have and don't feel stifled in that manner and with doing that kind of thing. And also having that, monetary and income security as well. As I mentioned before, there's some things in our society that unfortunately you just can't have access to unless you have a certain threshold of income, which that's one thing I would hope to change in our coming years, but that's just how we're living and that's how society is today. So yeah, that's kind of what I see as being a rich social worker.
All
Yeah,
right. So thanks, Gabby, for being on the channel today.
you're
And
welcome.
yeah, like I said, everybody, if you haven't seen the first part of this video, make sure you go check it out on Gabby's channel. I believe you can dream, be, do, or have everything you want, but it starts with your mindset. So make sure it's a rich one. See you next time.